Hey, welcome to another episode of Electrical Theology, Esoteric Life Coaching. I'm your host, Charles. We've been talking last week about how to manifest your thoughts, or your thoughts being responsible for your thoughts, actions, and emotions. And if you don't like the outcome, change the instructions, or change the form, or change the framing of it, however you want to look at this. So we've been talking about this secret grid that we're not taught really anywhere, unless it's a esoteric society, secret society. But I like to bring the information out and show you what's in plain sight, so it gives you some advantages in life to manifest the health, wealth, and love that you desire. No guarantees to anything. It's just information. Do with it what you want, guys. But I'm here just to share that information to help you and guide you along on your path to being the person you want to be. All right. I appreciate you showing up and spending your time with me. So if it's all right with you, well, let's get started. So the last couple of videos we've been talking about, or at least in the grid videos, we have 7.1, 2, and 3. This is 3. And we're going to continue talking about the grid and the expansion of it. Last time we talked about the sort of micro grid and the macro grid. And here's just a little reminder. We have 0, which is that. And then when that opens up, it becomes 1. And then the 1 and 0 come together, and that then creates energy like a magnet. A polarity, negative, positive, negative, positive. This creates spinning that comes out of that. And when that comes out, when energy comes out of that, it expands, then it expresses itself. As it expresses itself, just like you or I to express ourself, it or that express itself. And as it did, it then created a spiraling effect. This electromagnetism started spiraling and spinning. And then it created or attracted other like atoms that continually produced. And then that starts formation. And so for us to be part of this formation, we have to be in line with that information. So we then have information. So we get to format the ions. And then that way we have our own information. And the universe wants to have your own unique life, then you need to order those ions in a specific unique order that's unique to you and not other people. Okay? So here's just a rendering, an illustration, sort of using the grid again, like we did on the last video. We put it over a car. And in this one, we're just going to show you that then produces this, which is more ions spiraling, in a column or a columnar wave. And then that is what they then turn into Shambhala. This creates more reduction. The ions are beginning to reduce. And then when those ions become at a certain evolution, they then arc. And they start arcing when we tell it what to do, when we tell that what to do, or the thisness part what to do. I know that sounds a little weird, but this is what we're really talking to in order. It's our cells. Our cells are listening to vibrations. They react in your body to every vibration. People are hypersensitive and sensitive to heat, waves, people's voices, lights, the sun. Everyone's sensitive to something. And that's what makes them an emotional sensitive person, is because the cells in their body are sensitive to these impressions, these external impressions. And as these external impressions, which could be a person, place, or thing, and it's not necessarily those things, but it's the thought about those things that's causing the sensitivity. So we can strengthen the sensitivity, and how we do that is by ordering strength. And strength can be wherever you need it to be in physical, mental, or spiritual, health, wealth, or love, or any of the trinities. But this is just an illustration of where it's starting to come out of that, and this forms, and then Shambhala is sort of this ionic pool along with that. And then when we give it an order, it arcs. And then that arc then sends it through the God mechanism. And yes, mechanism spiritual for me. So the universe is made up of machinations, and these machinations, or machined ions, have energy to them. And these energies are what produce and are creating soul and spirit, as we know in the mythological right brain world. So I'm very right brain, but I love to explain what's happening in the right brain world, or the mythological or the mystic world, into the logical world. I have the ability to look at both sides of it, and that then helps me explain to people, to religious people, how to look at things from an electrical perspective. I can take left brain people and have them look at the methodological right brain, and by using or by reframing the language. And in doing so, they're able to then access their right and left brain. The corpus callosum in the middle grows, and then they become intuitive. So they begin to feel the effects of other people's energy and immediately know that it's not their energy, but it's their choice of how they want to act or respond to that energy, that other person's energy. All right, so this is just an illustration. Y'all can look at it. I'm not going to go over it. I'm just more for the illustration where it just starts producing a blueprint, schematic, and then it creates the human in the 7 frequencies. Right? So we have the basic structure that we talked about last video, the 3 rows of 7, the Trinity. And then we talked about this massive grid. I'm just bringing this as a reminder, a refresher. And so this is our thought in numerical form. And as these thoughts come in, there's times where they start and then they begin to thicken up or complete themselves, because we have the unformed over here in the 1s, 2s, and 3s, and then it starts forming in the 10s, 11s, 12s, and so forth, and then it gets really thick around the 20s and 30s, but just for now, we'll just use the 20s, 20 and 21. And then once that form or your thought has been formed or manifested, it then is done and you start the new thought. So every thought you have starts forming and unforming all the time, or creating or recreating, all right? And that was just the bigger. So one of these grids here are basically one of these little grids here. So you can see how massive the universal expansion is that's coming off of that all the time. And this is alternating current, so we can have passive, active, tonified, sedate, whatever verbiage you want to use, but let's just use active. So when these waves come in, it's time to be active in your life. It's time to get up, take action in your life, a dominant discipline. And then the passive time is when you should sit back, relax, learn, let the body rest, let the mind rest, go on vacations, whatever that is for you. But if you're trying to be active in a passive time, you're not going to get anywhere because the energy is not there to go anywhere. And so you're sort of forcing the issue. And when you force the issue, you're going to get the actual income. You're going to get a forced result, right? But if you're in a passive time, then you know not to be too impatient or frustrated that things are coming. Better things are coming, but we have to wait, because in order for it to fully come, we have to sit and be with ourselves and go to the esoteric internal self and be with ourselves and grow ourselves. Cool? All right. Well, let's get on to our main topic. And so part of the topic that we're talking about is the dimensional realms, or the realms of expanding or expanding ions realms. So diamonds, ions, we know that's two-way communication, or 2 forms of energy transferring and receiving, or transforming, receptacle, whatever binary language of 1s and 0s you want to use, male, female. So in this grid, it's a basic grid, but we're just dimensionalizing them. And each one of these dimensions are a realm. And we'll get into the stages here in a minute, but we're going to have the physical and mechanical realm, 1 through 7. We're going to have the mental, chemical realm, chemicals. It's the chemical, alchemical, alchemy. You'll hear all those type words there. Chemistry. You have this realm, 1 through 7. And again, these are color-coded: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, and violet in each. Don't worry about that so much right now, but just keep that in the back of the head. And I really don't want you to memorize what I'm teaching here. I just want you to take it in, understand it. You don't have to memorize it, just understand it. The more you understand it, the more you can recall it. It's subconscious memorization without having to memorize forcefully. So each one of these are just realms. So you have the spiritual and the electrical. Again, right-brainers, we'll call it spiritual, mental, physical. Left-brainers, I call it the mechanical, chemical, and electrical. Right? So again, this is just an illustration sort of giving a visual effect to what we're seeing here. Pull my face off a little more. Dimensional stages now. We'll talk about that area. This area here just says astral and divine and spiritual, so if I'm covering that up, or I can just go off screen here for a second. So what we're looking at here is the realms of expanding consciousness, right? Expand and consciousness. So what you just saw on the screen before, on this screen here, did the same thing right here. These are the three just separated. Now, this is the physical realm, physical mechanical realm, mental chemical realm, spiritual electrical realm, and this energy is coming from that. And that's why this big V's here. So it's funneling down or reducing. That's reducing itself and coming in, reducing itself into from the spiritual or electrical into the chemicals and into the mechanical. Because the electrical is then what regulates the chemical or the constituents of the earth in our body. And then with those two combining, it then creates us. Or this energy comes in before it forms and comes down, creates the human form, and then as this realm fills up, if you will, like an empty cup, we can pour in the liquid and it goes through the cup, but it doesn't start forming until it hits the cup. So when that built the shell, or God built the shell, the human flesh bag, then the energy came into it and started filling it up. So as the energy came into the constituents that it built, it then started filling up. So the electricity and the earth constituents in our body, fire, water, earth, and air, then combined and created the soul or the mental realm. That makes sense? But just know for now, each one of these realms have within them gates. So yes, this is the whole physical mechanical realm, but within there also is a physical, mental, and spiritual. That's what it's here. Physical, mental, and spiritual. So physical, mental, spiritual, PMS. So when your life's not going, you have physical PMS, if you will. Pre-manifesting syndrome. Right? You get frustrated, agitated. You just want things to get done, but they're not getting done. So it's a very frustrating time a lot when we're trying to create something new or a new thought or create that which we want in our life, but it's not coming at the pace we want it to. And the reason why it's not coming at the pace you want it to is because you're the one regulating that pace. And until you understand how to regulate those ions, right, set your boundaries, your regulations, then the energy will come in how you choose it to, right? So each one of these are stages. Now stages are just an anagram for gates. Gates are portals, right? You see where we're going now? So that picture I showed you at the beginning with the three little dudes and that and Shabal and all that coming out to make a human, this is the ports that go, if you will, the energy goes into a portal, and that portal goes through our esoteric space within and then starts producing. And that production, that produced ion, the production starts emanating and it's electromagnified, and then it starts attracting like energy or like thought. So whatever your thought was is what you attract in your life, right? So when you take responsibility for what you have attracted and repelled, then we're initiating the flow within our own stream. We become a live stream now, not living off of other people's stream, but we become a universe or a one verse stream, right? So gates and portals, same thing. So it's very important, or import. It's up to you to import those ions, right? When you're being positive, the word has posit, right? Or position, it has posit. So we want to posit our ions, and posit's just a new thought. Posit literally means thought. So we want to posit our ions, or deposit our ions into this form. Right? Is that making sense? Now leave a comment, I'll see if I can break it down further. But just know that each realm has three stages: physical, mental, spiritual, physical, mental, spiritual, physical, mental, and spiritual. I talk fast to slow it down, some on the YouTube. So yeah, each one of these now, once we go through the 1 through 7 here, then we go into the mental realm from the physical. And then once we understand and take responsibility for our thoughts, actions, and emotions, and so emoting ions are up in the spiritual. The physical realm, we have to deal with the physical realm. And so that's going to deal with, and we'll get in later to describe those, but it gets into the beginning of your thought and how you structure the thought and have it form in the way in which you want it to form. Cool? All right. So then you have the mental realm, or the portal. But again, the energy comes in and it goes into the form that it created. Or that may be confusing for some, but when the liquid or the electrical vat comes in and forms the form, it forms the fire, water, earth, and air. It hasn't formed us yet. Once it forms the form, and that's what this physical realm is, the planet, we talked about that a few videos back. We talked about the plan of that is the planet, the plants, animal planets, and so on and so forth. You can go back and watch that video, a few videos back. I should put a link up there, but right now I'm just keeping the video simple, and later on I'll put some links in. But for now, when that energy comes in, it creates, because again, we talked about like a printer, all these colors are coming down at the same time. Well, the universe is coming down from the God aspect, and the God aspect is creating or flowing as it chooses, which is our higher self, which is just choosing what energy it wants to form first, at the same time, or last, if that makes sense. So just like a color printer, depending on what colors you have in it, certain colors will come out, others won't. If it's just a little bit of that, then just a little bit of that. So we talked about the supas can be millions of trillions of years old for each of these seven consciousnesses to be formed and still forming. This is where the Buddhists come in with their reincarnations. I think they're on their last incarnation, if I remember, is that it's the last Lama. And then a whole new world is to come and change, just like every other mythology has their messiahs coming back or leaving or a restructuring or a battle, some sort of transition. So we're going to take the ions and transit them to something else, a new form. And so it's a new reformation. It's another reformation. Right? Martin Luther is just, in one sense, the word Martian, and then Luther just means light. So it's the Martian light. And that's a whole other conversation we can get into if you want at another time. Again, we can go as vast as you want, but let's just keep it basic. Let's get the basic framework down. Then we can, delve into some of these far out places of alien off-planet, what's going on out there, on all the other realms, on all the other humanoid and other like species out there. So anyway, so the energy comes down, it creates the form, and then as the energy comes in, takes the fire, water, earth, and air, and it builds clay through the chemistry. It takes the chemistry takes that cup when it's flowing up, and as it flows up to here, then it has the chemistry, and then the electricity comes down and breathes into all this, cools it down, if you will, like a cup of tea, and then the fire burning through the constituents that the electricity picked up through the chemical realm, it then created the form, and then this form, as it continued to flow, then through energy and motion, or the motive force of that, expressing itself, then it finally becomes man, but then it takes the electricity, puts it into the constituents of man, and then it burns, that then creates the soul, and now the cup's filling up. And our goal then, if you will, is to expand or initiate or start a new phase of our life. And so each one of these realms are a macro change in your life. So if you live to be 70, or whatever your age is, we normally go through three major changes. It's a third and a third and a third. The first is about learning, second stage is about earning, and the third stage is about your legacy, or leaving behind what it is and teaching others and serving others what it is that you gain from your visit here on this planet. Right? So hopefully this is making sense. So these are the realms of expanding consciousness, which again is your consciousness. Your consciousness is constantly expanding. So as it expands, all I'm doing is giving instructions or structural abilities to which you can take or not take, or form it in the way in which you form it, so that then you can be introduced, or an introduction, which is introducing new ions into your consciousness, and this goes into your cells in your body that then allow the energy to have the capacity for more, the capacity to love more, the capacity to earn more, the capacity to teach others more, and specifically to love yourself more. And that's a key component to all of this. Because the more you love yourself, the more gratitude you have, then this is the back end of that black hole we talked about where it's sucking in something and then it produces out. These are the cells in our body. So it's sucking in electricity around us from that. And then the small vats inside are the motors, the mitochondria in our cells. And so what keeps this fuel going while we're in the shell is compassion. Number one, come past those ions. Be passionate about those ions, about your life. Right? Get that spark and get that passion back in your life. And more importantly is loving yourself and gratitude. Gratitude, by having these feelings of gratitude, by having these feelings of love, not necessarily thoughts, but feelings, this is the fuel that generates the generator that then creates more energy or generations. It's a generator creating ions. And so this is what's being produced electromagnetically out of this ape suit. It's electrical energy being passed out to other people. Cool? And no way is right or wrong. It's just a way. But you'll have the physical realm, and this is what these are different names you'll hear for it: causal body, the etheric ancestral realm, and the astral divine realms. And we'll mainly play with these because we can go into a 21 by 21 realm, 9 realms. There's 9 realms that we can add on, the 8th and 9th realms, but this gets really confusing at this point, so we just keep it with 7s. All right? All right, guys, let's put this video up into 2 because it's being too long. So you'll get the second part of this on a following video. All right, appreciate you hanging in there.